We are back, double-edged, uncensored, ready for another episode. Let's go. What are we talking about today?
Today we're going to be talking about fat shaming, and is it okay to fat shame somebody if it is going to motivate them to become better, healthier, and more aesthetically attractive? This is a super, super sensitive subject. I think
very sensitive.
If you're a very thin-skinned individual, I think that it would offend that type of person.
Just turn it off right now if that's you.
No, don't turn it off. But we're not going to sugarcoat anything because you'd probably eat it. So let's not do that. Let's be careful. We don't want anyone to come up with a case of diabetes over the internet.
They probably already have it.
Probably.
So I think it's important, first of all, to dispel some misconceptions, okay? So out there in the world today, a lot of people misunderstand things. And one of the most misunderstood things is what they refer to as fat shaming, right? So if you see a fat person, say, all over social media, there's posts of these fat people, and everybody's always like, oh, size doesn't matter, big is beautiful, blah, 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 whatever. But then somebody goes, no, that doesn't look attractive. That's unhealthy. And that is what is considered fat shaming in today's society.
Right. It's basically, from my perception of it too, to your point, is it seems like people will literally take someone calling something out, calling a duck, and because it's the truth, the people get offended by the truth. Because if I were to say to you, you suck at podcasts, and that bothered you, I think there would be a thought in the back of your mind already that says, you know what, I don't think I'm that good at this. And that right there is why it bothers you. So the fact that they're trying to call that fat shaming and try to push people away from that says that in the back of their minds, they know that they're fat. They know that they're not beautiful. And they want to be beautiful and attractive and healthy so bad in the worst way, but they're willing to put all their effort into the excuse making and the diversion rather than facing exactly the problem and doing something about it. So they're focusing. Have you ever heard the term, and I think this applies to so many aspects in life, people will work not to work?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of what this is, in my opinion. And it's also part of the participation trophy bullshit that we're seeing nowadays, where everything is extremely easy. And these people are working to paint a society where the picture is, well, you can't say this because I am beautiful. And, according to whose standards, and society says this and that. I mean, it doesn't just come out of the blue one day that they think now all of a sudden plus size models are attractive. Yeah. It's just not.
All that right there is just people making excuses for poor behavior and poor decisions. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
100% making excuses. So, there's a difference between like fat shaming, right, and bullying. Bullying is, literally treating somebody bad because they're overweight.
Right.
And we don't ever condone bullying.
We don't
whatsoever.
condone bullying, no.
No, absolutely not. I hate bullies. I think bullies should be met with extreme violence and punch in the nose. But to speak out and tell the truth to somebody who is telling a lie to themselves, that's an act of love, in my opinion, because you're not willing to leave this person in their delusions. You're trying to be like, hey, man, you are fat, okay? This is extremely unhealthy. You need to make some changes.
Yep.
And that's different from, oh, you fat, whatever.
Oh, you're fat. You can barely walk. You can't
blubber
do this.
Ball, you know what I mean? Like, that right there is bullying. That's,
it's unacceptable.
That's unacceptable to me. But calling a spade is something that we all should do. And unfortunately, in the society we're in today, it's become extremely unpopular and just like taboo to tell the truth.
Yeah, the truth's not a very popular subject these days, and I think it's just because people don't want to. It comes down to laziness. We live in extremely advanced push-button technology It's a technology-driven society or world pretty much now, especially with all the AI things coming out that are making it easier and easier for humans to just do less and less. And, they have to have value somehow, because if they were to cheat out on the actual work that they need to be doing, they would be, happy with themselves, content, fulfilled, and the list goes on and on.
Yep. In order for people to make positive changes and to be more accepting of the truth, how would you go about explaining to somebody that needed to make those changes? What do you think the best way to go about that would be?
I think the best approach for somebody that was overweight, that maybe claims to be beautiful or healthy or so on, would just be real with them in a tactful way. I think your approach and delivery on a potentially touchy subject is crucial. You've heard the term, people will believe anything you say if you whisper it in their ear. Now, you can use that for good or bad, positive or negative. You can whisper lies. Oh, you are beautiful. You're just bigger. You're big boned. No, nobody's big boned.
No,
that's impossible.
That's another one.
I've never seen a fat skeleton.
Yeah,
in my life. So
yep.
I think the way you have to it has to be genuine. You have to genuinely care. And I'm somebody that one of the most important traits in myself and anyone else I've ever came across and had interaction with in life, period, is being genuine. Genuinity is extremely important, because I think that so many people are fake nowadays, and I think it's because fear of rejection mainly.
Probably, yeah.
They're afraid. I think it boils back down to fear, because they're afraid to show their true, genuine self, and they're afraid that their true, genuine self will be rejected. So then they paint a fake picture of what, the societal norm is, and then, okay, well, that's acceptable. I'm this size, I'm this weight, I do, I go drink beer on the weekends and hang out with all my buddies.
Eat all this sugar and stuff like that. That's one thing that, like we made the joke earlier about, stuff being sugar coated, but people don't realize how much sugar they eat. It's and insane. Take in, people drinking all of these soft drinks, eating all of these sugary things. People don't understand how big of an effect a healthy diet will have on them.
No, and it's not hard. I mean, I'm going through a cut right now for fitness reasons. I had bulked up. I was 230. Now I'm about 220, hovering right around there. I've seen a huge difference in my waistline. I don't eat sugar. My carb intake is extremely limited. I'm very high in protein, and I have healthy fats for fuel. I'm staying hydrated. I'm working out 5 to 6 days a week. And, I mean, in just a few weeks of doing that, I've seen a huge difference in my waistline. I mean, the first week or two is hard because you're really fighting an addiction. So there's probably 99% of Americans specifically that have a sugar addiction.
I would say that's 100% true. I think I might be remembering this wrong, but recently I heard the statistics or whatever, sugar is a more addicting than cocaine or something like that.
Yeah, or as addicting. I think it's 10 times more addicting.
Probably. And everybody has a sugar addiction, basically.
Well, I mean, there's sugar in everything. I mean, breakfast food is notorious for it. People will wake up, grab a Pop-Tart or grab some type of honey bun or cereals loaded with sugar. I mean, there is just sugar in everything. How many times have you drove past McDonald's, Starbucks, or any other chain coffee shop in the morning? They're always packed, and those drinks, all of them, are loaded with sugar.
Yep.
And you have at least one of those a day. I mean, I've read the nutritional facts on some of the Starbucks drinks, the more popular ones that people go to. There's 50-plus grams of sugar in
they're
just
loaded.
That.
And some people get a drink from one of those places every single day.
Yep. Not to mention if they have soda.
Yep, which they probably do. Some people,
sweet tea.
Some people I know of, they'll drink 2, 3, 4, 5 a day. And
That's insane.
the amount of sugar and acidity that adds to your system, and everybody wonders why they're sick, why they got all these crazy health issues. Well, sugar is part of it.
Yep.
But like, going back to, the whole fat shaming deal, like, there's obviously the big difference between bullying and, telling people they're fat and ugly and this and that and the other versus coming across more like, hey, like I would really like to see like your life improve and stuff like that. Like it's a lot of it. You can say anything to somebody. It's like how you say it. It's the words you use, the tone of your voice, the expression on your face, how you come across. Really, really matters. Like I've said some things to people and they didn't get mad and blow up because I know how to come across and I know how to make them feel like I'm holding them accountable
because you care.
But I'm also, not giving them any, slack either. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? So,
no, I think that's the best way. And I think it is individual dependent. Some people respond better to, have you ever seen those people that are like, you can't do that. And then they'll go and do that just because you said they couldn't.
Yeah.
There's those types of people. Then there's another type of person where you build them up and they honestly solely believe that they are that person you built them up to be, and then they go and do it. Whereas if you tried one of the methods on someone who is, an opposite responder of one of those, it's just going to have a negative effect. So you have to really understand what type of person you're dealing with, and I think, like we both said, basically it has to come from a place of being very genuine and caring and showing love to that person, saying, you know what, man, or girl, whoever, like you have so much potential. Like look at your frame, dude. Like you're 6'2", you could be like 240 pounds lean, full of muscles, like getting all the girls, healthy. You could go hiking, do, sports, physical activities. Like you could be an absolute beast, man. Like, why don't you try to get on a diet? Like what have you tried? What have you tried and stuck to, really? Because, most of this stuff is very simple, and a lot of your basic, reduce calories through carbs mostly and increase your activity. It's really that simple. And most people are like, oh, well, I tried this and I couldn't do it. It's just the longevity aspect they can't do.
See, we've talked about some of this stuff before, and this pertains back to our things on discipline and having standards. So, it helps to have built that discipline base. Once you have a good base of discipline, makes a lot of things much easier.
Sure. And sometimes, people don't always start with a very disciplined base, and I think they need that honest, genuine friend that genuinely cares to push them.
And push,
who's going to be like, look, you are unhealthy. You right now are not the most aesthetically attractive version of yourself.
And you know what? I think it's fair to point out at this point, some people will never be okay with hearing that. They just
unfortunately
won't.
No,
because some people are just so
too far gone,
unable to emotionally, mentally, progress or whatever, that they will just never be able to process this. So they'll lash out and they'll react. So there's always going to be these people that will get mad and call it fat shaming. And, sucks to suck.
Unfortunately, there are those people, and I consider those people a lost cause. I hate it for them, I really do. I think that literally everyone possesses the power to lose weight and become more fit. And
absolutely,
on some level, they can do something to improve. But like you said, unfortunately, lack of discipline, limited mindset. They've permanently latched on to the fat shaming society.
They want to go with the path of least resistance, what makes them feel good. So many people, and through my own experiences and lessons that I've learned in life, I've learned a lot of things, and a lot of times what has to happen is counterintuitive. Right? Sometimes what you think the right course of action is, you should do the opposite. A lot of what I've realized.
Like, well, you're going based off of emotion.
Like people, you think one way, you feel a certain way, you feel like something's right, but we've said before, feelings are liars. You can't trust feelings. Just like anything to do with emotions, you have to train yourself to be able to set that aside almost and really, really get brutally honest and, look at things for how they are.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, logic is really the way to go, obviously. Logic doesn't lie. Feelings lie, but logic never lies. So we live in a society where people are emotionally driven. They're driven off of emotion. They're like, you could relate that to several things that we've already talked about, like the emotional aspect where, the fat shaming ordeal. Oh, well, you can't say this, because it triggers something that they know deep down that emotionally bothers them. They know deep down that they're fat and overweight, and they just refuse to admit it.
Yeah, because if they were to admit it, then they have a duty to do something about it.
Yep.
And that would just completely upset their idea of themselves and their way of life.
Yep.
And it'll cause them to have to be accountable and take responsibility. And those are things that so many people just cannot do these days for themselves.
No, that's
why
huge
this
problem.
exists. That's why we're having this problem, because people have gotten to that point where they're unable to do that for themselves, and they need society to do it for them. So society has built up these excuses for them to create a safe place where they can all congregate, and just...
Yeah. I don't think people understand. Let's be really clear about this. The government does not want people fit and healthy and strong.
No.
If you have a herd of cattle or anything else that I could put into an analogy for everyone at home to understand, if you have... Okay, let's do this. Let's do it this way. A prison. Do you want, as someone who is in charge of a bunch of prisoners or slaves, whatever it may be, anything like that, where you're being
let's
controlled?
do slaves.
If you're in charge of a bunch of slaves, do you want all those slaves to be big, strong, and healthy?
Absolutely not.
And
of course not.
We know the answer. You guys know the answer, but why?
Because strong, healthy slaves are going to have better cognitive function. They're going to be able to do for themselves more. They're not going to be as agreeable.
Yep.
It's going to take a whole lot more force to keep them in check.
Yep.
And I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
It's all negative aspects working them out of slavery. They're gonna fight you harder. Like you just said.
If you have a bunch of slaves that get fit, and this can apply to a lot of different areas in life, right? We're not talking just physical at this point. We're talking spiritual, emotional, financial. If you get a bunch of fit slaves, they're not going to be slaves for long.
No, they're not. They're either going to have a bunch of dead slaves, or they're going to overtake you, and
you're going to be the one that's dead.
Make you the slave.
You might get a couple of them, but in the end, they will overrun you and completely obliterate the system that you've been using to keep them in check.
Right.
Whereas if you have a whole bunch of, lethargic, unhealthy, unfit slaves, they will be slaves forever. And you just have to create chaos, and you have to create an environment that keeps them like that.
Correct, yeah. Just enough chaos to keep them confused and distracted from ever focusing any real effort on trying to become better and break free.
That's right.
If they're fighting amongst themselves a little bit, or they're a little bit unhealthy, or any little inconvenience to allow them to be healthy enough to do what you want them to do, versus healthy enough to do what you want them to, and then working on themselves after hours, after the sun goes down. Guess what? They're doing push-ups, they're training, they're getting together, creating a plot and a plan to escape. That's what they don't want. They want to wear you down just enough. A lot of people probably won't know this movie, but this is a great, something that's very relatable. The movie is called Ben-Hur. So, long story short, there was this guy. This was like the plot was back in biblical times. And this guy was taken as a slave. So there was one scene where he's on a battleship, and this was one of those old-fashioned battleships where they have like 50 slaves down in the under part, where they have to grab on the row, and there's like rows. It's almost like a commercial jet, and there's like these huge paddles, and they're having to just row constantly. And I remember in that scene, the slave master was down there watching them, yelling at them to keep going, row harder, row harder. And they said, "We keep you alive to serve this ship, so row well
Yep.
and live."
Yep.
So that just goes to show you that that's their tactic. So, they're giving them just enough. We keep you alive. It's not we give you enough rest, enough quality meals, and you're enough.
We're giving
free
you
time,
just enough to serve our needs,
and that's it.
and
So, long story short,
that was really good.
long story short, that just came to mind. Like
That was
row well
really
and live. So, long story short, several events took place in the movie, and that particular slave, who was like the star of the show, ended up on a much smaller, like just couple man-sized boat
Like, it
with
was
the
like a
slave
raft.
master.
Yep.
Yeah, and he was much stronger and more fit than the slave master, so he forced him to row their boat. And you know what? He turned around and said to him, "I keep you alive to serve this ship, so row well and live." And he just looked at him. He's, more.
The
he's
realization,
thin.
the realization struck home.
Yeah. So that was
That's what it's all
awesome.
about, right there.
Yep.
Eventually, the tables can turn if you want them to.
Yep. But you have to put the effort in, and you have to want it bad enough. And sometimes having a friend to be real and honest with you is
Sometimes it's
what you need.
It's the exact push in the right direction that will get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And you know what? The cool thing about success is it tends to snowball. Like once
It
you
does.
complete something, once you achieve something, you get like the energy from that. You're like, yeah, okay, I did this. All right, let's go do something else. And you do something else a little bit bigger. You do it a little bit better. And you keep on going. You get motivated. The more motivated you get, the more tenacious you get. And, that right there can inspire other people around you to start doing the same thing. And once
People don't realize that.
like the power of unity is incredible. Like once people discover the secret of unity, all bets are off.
Most people don't realize it just takes one person to literally start an entire movement. I mean, really, you never know. We were raised in a Christian household, and we're Christians now. Our dad always told us something that I'm pretty sure you know what I'm about to say, and it's always stuck with me, especially, I'm sure you too, and it's relatable to so many things. And he always said to be mindful of how you act and carry yourself on a day-to-day basis because you never know who's watching.
Yep.
And obviously that could be true for a lot of other things, but, I mean, he would say you may be the only Bible someone ever reads. Someone, whether they know you're Christian or not. People watch other people. They study other people. Nobody is as dumb
That's
as you
so
think you are.
true.
Nobody's as dumb. People may not say anything. Some people obviously are naive and they have their head in the sand or the clouds. But people watch.
People are nosy,
up there.
especially around here. They love to watch what you're doing.
Yep. So that same thing could be true for someone who's overweight. You never know if you're someone who's overweight and you start to become fit. You start to get a little bit of definition, and people are watching you. How many other overweight, unhealthy people are watching you and would be inspired by your story?
Because a lot of times people have it in their head, like they might be trying, but they might be thinking, oh man, this is so hard. I can't do this. I'll never get where I want to be, blah,
Yep.
blah, blah. The minute they see somebody else do it, they can start to look at them and be like, if that guy can do it, I can do it.
Man, I've done that with so many things. I remember just growing up over the years, I've seen people do this stuff, and I before was like, I don't know if I could do that. Then you just see an absolute retard come along and do something, and you're just like, oh, no. If he can do that.
I'm way smarter than that guy. I can
he
do
can
this.
do that. So be thankful for retards and losers because they don't always stay retards and losers, honestly.
That's right.
Some of them are able to snap out of it and become better. So
Yep. Sometimes when like they get it, and
Yep.
they just
boom. You could start an entire movement, and all it starts with you, your day-to-day choices.
Yep, that's right.
So that's what it is. I mean, and also, the second part of this is the aesthetic part. So people want to talk about fat shaming and the
Attractiveness
health
and stuff.
side of things and this and that. So we've covered that a little bit, but honestly, people that are overweight are not beautiful. They're not beautiful.
No.
It's
Cold hard facts. That's just
it's not like
it's not attractive.
you don't see some roly-poly male or woman walking down the road and you look at them at the beach like, man, like
That's not something anybody ever admires.
no, because it's not hard.
Yeah.
It's easy to stuff your face with shitty food and be lazy and do little activity and have no discipline and do nothing about it. So there's no value in it because it's too easy to achieve. It's too common. It's not rare. If something is rare, therefore that's why it's valuable because it's so rare.
Yep.
Like that's why diamonds and gold. You can't just go outside and pick up diamonds and gold. You're going to pick up dirt and rocks and just shitty
Junk.
materials, that are all over the place. But diamonds and gold are rare. That's why they are valuable. So I've never been to the beach in my life where a woman is sitting there and they're staring at all these guys that are skinny fat and have the dad bods. Like, oh, man, look at that belly. Like, no, they're looking at the buff, ripped guy,
Yep.
whether it be
They're looking
out
at
of
the
the
dude.
corner of
Yep.
their glasses or not.
Sometimes they just make it obvious.
Yeah.
They stare at you as you walk by. They're looking at the dude with the big shoulders. He might not have like abs or whatever, but he definitely doesn't have a big.
He doesn't
old
have a gut. Yeah, he's got
some
big
arms.
traps.
He's
He looks
got his chest built.
masculine.
He's got his legs built.
Manly, masculine.
Yep.
Maybe
He
a couple
takes care of
tattoos. He just looks like a badass walking down the beach that could defend you, that could hurt somebody to protect you.
Yep.
I don't think a fat or skinny fat loser has the same capabilities, and I think psychologically women know that in the back of their minds, and
It all
that's
goes
what
back
draws
to
them.
nature. They'll
Yeah.
go after the guy that they think can best protect and provide for them.
Yep.
And being aesthetically pleasing, physically fit is a big part of that.
And I think, too, that part of the whole dad bod movement is, I think part of it is because women, they want to be the pretty ones. And I think if you have a very fit man who's extremely disciplined, he's on top of his diet, and he's as sharp in all aspects of his life, I think it puts more pressure on the woman. And now she feels like she has to do that, and she's unsure if she can.
Certain
she's
women,
insecure.
right? I think there's like different levels of women. So once you hit this point that we're talking about as a man, you're going to get higher quality females because these lower grade females can't compete.
No.
And a lot of times women won't compete. Like every once in a while you get the one that'll start upping her game and trying to level up or whatever.
Yeah.
Most females stay at whatever level they were born at, right? Women are born, most of the times, like you got all these beautiful women, they act a certain way and this and that. Most of the times they just are who they are and they won't change.
I think that's true for a lot of people.
Yep. But especially for women. So as a man starts to get his value up, he's going to have access to higher levels of women.
Yeah.
And usually what you can expect is like, because like that's true what you said, the woman wants to be the pretty one. So you'll probably end up with a woman that's a little bit ahead of you, so to speak, as far as like attractiveness goes.
Yeah.
Just because she wants to be the one that's like the pretty one.
Yep.
And honestly, like the dudes we're cool with that. Like I'm not going to have somebody who is lower than me in terms of attractiveness anyway.
No, yeah, I want the female to be the pretty one, but if I come along and I'm, 220 and ripped with abs and I have muscles popping out everywhere, there's not going to be a whole lot of women. That's going to be a very small
access to all of
percentage.
them.
It's going to be a very small percentage ones that are actually going to be in my league. And I hate to say league, but that there's hierarchies in dating and
There are.
the world of attractiveness, and unfortunately, I mean, there are leagues. There are. I'm not going to settle for somebody who's less attractive because I've put in a lot of work into myself, and I know what I deserve and what I bring to the table and what I'm willing to accept, and I won't settle. I've worked too hard, and I'm too valuable. That's like I've worked extremely hard, saved up thousands of dollars, and I want to go buy a car. I'm not going to let a Honda salesman famous me into buying a CRV for $45,000. Like, give me the GT 500 or something. Like, I want what I bring to the table. I want my money to buy the best.
Yeah, you want the best return on investment.
Yeah, that's all it is. And, too, there's other aspects when it comes to that as far as just the aesthetics. I mean, the health side of somebody to share life with. I mean, I want to be able to do physical activities. I want to be able to go hiking with this person and biking and be able to get up early and go do stuff, then stay healthy for years to come.
Yep.
Have enough energy to raise our children and be fun,
Yeah,
healthy
you don't want
parents.
You don't want them to be breaking down while
Yeah.
you're still like going
Well, I'm
strong.
still kicking, no. And I want her to be able to have, healthy genetics and birth a healthy, strong child for the next generation.
And I've kind of talked about this before. Like, I love a woman that gets plenty of sleep and drinks lots of water.
Yeah.
Like, when these women are up till 1, 2, 3 a.m.,
Drinking alcohol.
or not even that, just not sleeping, playing on their phone, whatever. Healthy habits go a long way. Like, for me,
Yes.
as far as like attractiveness goes.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just because I'm like, that's just
No, it's
It's
what
just-
you do a majority of the time that
Yeah.
really is going to give you the results that are long term and lasting. It's a lifestyle. It's not a crash diet where you lose 50 pounds in a month.
it's
and-
got to be something you can stick to.
Yeah, it has to be sustainable.
Yep.
And I think those are the best kind of diets and just lifestyle plans in general because you are literally sticking to a healthy diet. Like, I eat really clean 5 days a week. I may have a cheat meal on Saturday, and then Sunday, usually I'll let loose and kind of have whatever. But, it's funny. The more I do that, I've found that, especially as of late, that, here comes, it's Sunday. I don't really have a desire to go ahead and cheat all day because I know how that food is going to make me feel too. Mentally, I'm going to feel bloated and I'm like, just feeling bogged down, foggy headed. And it's like, you know what? That nothing tastes as good as what healthy feels like and looks like.
That's true.
It
That's
really
very
doesn't.
true.
Like, and what you're talking about, snowballing. If I were to eat a jelly donut for breakfast.
Private Pile. What is this?
Yeah, if I were to eat a jelly donut for breakfast, that's gonna be a shitty breakfast, right? So then 10 o'clock comes around in my mind. Well, I've already had a bad breakfast, so I might as well have a shitty snack because I've already ruined my diet for the day. So then lunch comes around. Oh well, now I'm gonna have.
If you cheat early, you're going to cheat all day.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're going to cheat later in the day. That way you have less time to cheat.
Yeah, no, yeah. And I mean, cheat days are not that great. Cheat meals are better because it gives
Yeah.
you a little bit. You use that energy in the gym and for your day-to-day activities, and it ends up actually speeding up your metabolism even more. So now you're burning even more fat, and
Yeah.
you could use it as a positive.
But that is a good point. Like, once you have been on point with your diet and you've been doing the right thing as far as that goes, honestly, after going a long time without sugar, like I'm not gonna lie, I do love like my snacks or whatever. I like my candy and my sweets and stuff, but only in small portions. Like like honestly, after a long time of going without it, they really don't taste as good.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel like absolute crap. Like,
Yep.
after you're done. So I do love that stuff, in the right context or whatever. But for me, like you said, the work and everything that I put in, it's not worth losing all that to go and just splurge and stuff my face all the time. There are some people that you and I have known in the past that were like, the one dude I'm talking about, he would go to the gym just so he could eat more cookies and ice cream and whatever. Like that. I'm just done.
No comment. Yeah.
No comment.
Yeah. But, as far as how all this stuff boils back down to not only the healthy aspect, but attraction. I mean, sometimes attraction's not just physical looks either. It's also confidence that someone has in themselves. And, I mean, I don't know about you, but the best way for me to build confidence in myself is to conquer myself daily. And kind of what you were saying earlier on in the episode about giving in to your emotions and, letting that decide for you what is best and what you need to do. So if you were to give in to the lie of emotions, then you're going to be, no, I'm tired. I need to rest. I shouldn't go to the gym. Therefore, you're letting your emotions win and you're not conquering yourself. And someone who doesn't conquer themselves and doesn't have the power of their own mind is someone who's less confident. And a less confident person is less attractive And
Yep.
if they're emotionally driven and they give into that, they're probably overweight and they're unhealthy. So all this stuff is really directly correlated with one another, and it all ties in together. It's like a motor, synchronized motor. I mean, you have to have oxygen, fuel for the fuel pumping. I mean,
Gotta have the
oil
spark.
to lubricate, spark, everything in place. Then you have to have someone running all that. So you need to be that person who operates this. Everything's there. It all works the same. I mean, we all are human. The most ripped person in the world has the same body parts that you guys do and that I do. It's all the same. It's just what you do with it.
It starts here.
Yep.
It really starts and
Starts
ends
in
here.
your mind. But I think, confidence is extremely attractive. You could take a female who is absolutely beautiful, and if she's not confident in herself, she's not going to be as attractive as someone who's a little less physically attractive but confident, because the other girl is going to be insecure, and that's going to show in a lot of other ways that you don't want to deal with.
It bleeds out into every other aspect. I've been with girls like that in the past, like super, super beautiful girl, attractive girl, not confident at all. And
You're cheating on me.
Even it wasn't. It was like all these other things that it affected, but it was just the fact that she wasn't confident in the first place. That
Yep.
I was like,
No, confidence.
you have
is
no
sexy.
reason to not be confident. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, what's the matter with you?
Yeah.
Like,
Now, I guarantee you, though, if that person was in the gym conquering themselves, showing up to do leg day when they didn't feel like it, and doing all these other challenging things and coming out on top every time, they would be a hell of a lot more confident and be like, you know what? I conquer myself every day. I work all day long, and I still go to the gym for a heavy squat session, even though I didn't feel like it. Like, what else is there that's going to be so hard that I can't do?
exactly.
You conquer yourself. That's why a lot of these high-performance individuals, like The Rock is someone that comes to mind, who does an extremely hard workout at like 5 a.m. before they do anything. He's already conquered the day before the day's even really started. That man has conquered the day.
He's done the
before
hardest thing
you have even
possible,
gotten out of
probably.
bed
Yep,
to stuff your face with the jelly donut.
that's right.
Honestly.
Yep.
I mean, So confidence is sexy, but now what you're going to have is people that are saying that they're fat, but they're still confident because they don't let their weight decide their confidence and this
Yep.
and that. So that's what we're going to get coming at us next.
That's what they'll
what
say.
would you say to combat that?
The fact remains that you might be, confident about yourself being that way, but you're still
Unhealthy.
very unhealthy and you're still very unattractive.
Yep.
So you can have that confidence, but still, you're not. It's not doing you any good at that point. It's not
Yeah.
working in your favor. And
Yep.
if anything, being confident in yourself, if you're not trying to actively fix yourself, that confidence is driving you more in the opposite direction.
An
I would
illusion.
think. Yeah, it's an illusion. Because,
Well, just like I said before, it's like you take a vehicle, like I just said, and you are very confident that vehicle is going to make it to your destination, your 8-hour road trip, you're going somewhere, you're driving to Florida from somewhere 8-10 hours, and you're so confident, like, man, I'm going to Florida, I'm taking this car, and it's going to run great, I'm going to get there on time, and I'm going to go to the beach and have a great time.
meanwhile, he hadn't changed
Meanwhile,
the oil.
yeah.
Everything's all rusted and
And it
falling
breaks
apart.
down. You don't get there. You had all the confidence in the world. You were sure you were going to get there, and you told all your friends that you were going to be there at 8 o'clock, and then guess what? 3 hours in, you are broken down on the side of the road, and you're screwed.
Yep.
So that's a good analogy, I think.
It could be like
that
a
scenario.
It could be like give you like a false sense of
Yep.
reality, maybe.
Yep.
So
Unfortunately, yeah, that's what happens, and it's sometimes can be unexpected too. I mean, people never necessarily know when they're going to have a heart attack.
that's true.
And they say
That's true.
the number one cause of cancer in the Western world is obesity. That's number one, and so many people are obese.
A lot of people don't get it. Like an obesity, all that's caused by sugar. Cancer is able to thrive in an acidic environment. The more sugar you take in, the more acidic you become.
Yep.
That's what contributes to fat gain,
Diabetes,
all this stuff like that.
so many health
like
issues.
all these health issues stem from that one thing.
Yep.
And, I mean, it's just the
But
hard
so
truth.
many people are addicted to sugar. I've seen grown men in their 30s pretty much consume nothing but sugar, and they're running off of sugar as fuel all day long. And yes, that does fuel them, but I mean, they are spiking their blood sugar levels through the roof. Their insulin sensitivity is in the tank.
Yep.
And I mean, that's a perfect environment for cancer growth, like you just said. And it's just gross, man. I mean, your bone health, you're not getting the minerals that you need. You're more fragile and susceptible to injuries, especially bone breaks.
And you know what? Like, it's good to clean your diet up, but you also got to get active.
Yep.
Like, humans are meant to be active throughout the day. You know what I mean? We're not meant to just sit around
in air conditioning,
doing nothing for hours on end. We're supposed to be active. So if you are trying to like make changes, make sure that you get like to start just a couple hours of good, like steady activity throughout the day.
Yeah.
Because it's it's one thing to start eating right and cut out sugar, but if you still sit on the couch and you're, whatever,
you're only halfway doing it.
you're only So it's a good start, good place to start, but you gotta be thorough and you have to follow through. That's something that I've noticed that so many people today have issues with, and just plain old simple don't know how to do. Right? They'll do something, and then because they weren't thorough and didn't follow through, they'll have to go and do the whole thing over again.
Yeah,
because
you have to work harder.
There it is.
Back to people work not to work. I mean, you're doing everything you can to cut corners and make it easier, and putting all this effort into making the task so much easier that now it was all screwed up and you have to redo it. So now you're working harder.
Now you've doubled what you're having to do when you could have just been straightforward, done it right the first time, gotten it out of the way, and not had to worry about it again.
Yeah, for sure.
So that right there kind of goes back to what I was saying about things are sometimes counterintuitive. You know what I mean? Like trying to cut corners, make it fast, this and that and the other.
Yep.
Sometimes you just got to do it right. And if you do things the right way, most of the time it stays done. I like to do things so they stay done.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about something coming back to haunt you and doing it 3 and 4 times. It's done, it's finished, move on to the next thing. And, that just goes back to everything. The fundamentals, man, discipline.
Yep.
Follow through.
In case you guys haven't noticed, we love discipline.
Discipline will get you further in life than any degree, than anything.
It will.
I think all you need as a man in life to succeed is discipline, network, and work ethic. If you have the work ethic, discipline is going to keep you going. If you have the right connections, you're going to get into places that a degree never would allow you to get into.
Boils down to 2 things: discipline and spirit.
Discipline and spirit. I like
discipline and spirit.
D and S. D and S. Well, I think that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. We're actually going to be doing more episodes in this type of format where we're actually just conversating amongst ourselves, and you guys can just listen into the subject rather than a lesson in your face. Although we might have some of those, because sometimes
we will.
Certain things need to be said in your face. So remember, take control of your health, take control of your life. Conquer yourself on a day-to-day basis and become the healthiest, most aesthetic version of yourself. And you never know who you could be inspiring along your journey. You could start a movement. You just never know.
That's right. You owe it to yourself to see how far you can get.
And your family.
Yep.
And those around you, your friends, everybody. It's just you owe it to the world, pretty much. You owe it to God.
So pretty much that's the story. We're sticking to it. You guys comment, let us know what you think. I'll be interested to hear everybody else's take on this. Till next time.
If you have any tips that would be helpful for someone else going through the same type of transition, feel free to comment and interact with one another as well. We want to kind of build a community.
Tell us your story. Tell us how you went from, somebody who needed to make changes to, somebody who's changed themselves, their appearance, their outlook, their health, their life.
Yeah. All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Stay dangerous.